If you are a speaker or an author or any kind of content creator and you don't yet have a podcast that you can call your very own, I want to give you 5 great reasons to consider hosting your very own podcast. First of all, expand your reach, right? You got your email list, maybe you got your Facebook, you got your YouTube channel, I don't know what you got. But if you don't have a podcast, that's a whole new potential audience that you're not exploring yet. Number 2, reuse some of that content that you've got. If you've been in the game for a while, you've probably got materials sitting on shelves, old programs that you've sold in the past, and you thought, well, I guess that's done. You can convert all of that into new content for a podcast, either a mini series or an ongoing series. Many ways to use that content again and get value out of it over and over and over. Credibility. It used to be that if you wrote a book, hey, you're an author, that's really great. Come on into our exclusive club of people who hardly write books. But now that's not the case anymore, right? A lot of people write books. Not everybody has a podcast yet, but you want to get in now so you have that credibility piece of, yeah, I host my own podcast. What do you host? Number 4, make money, right? Doing a podcast opens up a whole new world of revenue streams that you probably never thought of and would have never been possible before podcasting. Now, before we get on to the 5th one, the 5th and final, not final, there's many reasons to host your own podcast. I know that I've sped through these at lightning speed, but we flesh all of this out in this free gift to you, 5 great reasons to host your own podcast, and you can get that by just going to mypodcastjumpstart.com and downloading your very own copy. Let's go to reason number 5 of 5 great reasons to host your own podcast: expanding your network. We talked about expanding your audience, expanding your reach. When you can expand your professional networks, you exponentially expand all of those other things and exponentially expand your opportunity as well. So, once you've got your podcast, now what are you going to do with it, right? How do you get it on Apple Podcast and Stitcher and Spotify, all of those things? Well, let me tell you something. It's not rocket science, but it can be kind of a pain in the butt. There's just a lot you have to do in the back end to make sure that your podcast gets where you want it to go on time, every time. And maybe you need a little production here and there, or maybe you're not even sure what you do a podcast about. Well, that's where Podcast Jumpstart can help. We can help you with your podcast strategy. If you've got some ideas, if you've got some content, if you've got some expertise, and you're not quite sure how that would turn into a podcast, let us help you figure that out. What about the gear? What equipment do I need to run a good podcast? Well, it really depends on the format of your podcast and what you want to accomplish. We'll talk to you about all of that and make sure you pick the right choice for you. Number 3, the technical setup. And I'm not talking about the gear, I'm talking about the back end, the software, the systems. How does it get where you want it to go? How does it know what picture to show? How does it know what description? How does it know everything? Everything about getting your system out there is what we help you with at Podcast Jumpstart. Full training on how to do that. Once we build your system, your sort of network propagation syndication system, we show you how easy it is to update your podcast every time you have a new episode. Also, if you are brand new to this and all you may have is you and a microphone, but a lot of things to say, and you just need sort of an intro and an outro, and then you've got a podcast with professional voiceover and music, we provide that as well. And the big one, podcast submission, getting your podcast out to the world, to all the places that people actually listen to podcasts, and telling you how your podcast is doing. How many downloads do you have? Where are they downloading from? What kind of device are they listening to? This will all help you to create a better podcast. The whole purpose of mypodcastjumpstart.com is to make your life as a podcaster fast and easy in getting your message out there. So again, you can download the 5 great reasons to host your own podcast at mypodcastjumpstart.com. If you have any questions about hosting your own podcast, Podcast Jumpstart would love to answer those questions.